Today I'm going to walk through an extension I'm working on called Encounter Safari, and it will generate a random encounter using the modules that you have loaded and all the NPCs within that. You can filter that. And what it does is it gathers all the variables on the NPC and generates a filter system to work with those as long as they are a string value. So the first thing we need to do is we'll bring up NPCs, and you'll see there is a new button here on this. And you can see once you click it, it brings up this random encounter generator window. So before we get into this, I want to show you something in the 2E rule set. On the NPCs, there's a lot of different values. You can filter based on these sorts of things here. Hit dice particularly is useful. But what I find the most useful, and some other rule sets may have similar values. I'm not familiar with all of them. But in this case, organization, diet, frequency, activity, and climate. For the 2E rule set, these are taken advantage of, as well as the number appearing. You can do certain things with these. Some rule sets won't have these values. If you have a rule set that does, and it doesn't function the same as it will here, so maybe let me know and I'll look at it. I'm not familiar with all these systems by any stretch. But in this case, so what we want to do is, first thing we're going to do is look at these buttons. This one will add a filter, and remember I said that it generated a list of all the types of filters, so I'm going to click it. What it did is it added a filter that filters on the activity field. And if you go back here, you can see activities. This one says varies, but that's one of the fields here. So if you look, when you bring up the drop down, now Fantasy Grounds does a little odd behavior with some controls like the drop down. So in this case, you'll need to use the mouse wheel to scroll down, or you can go over here to see them all. You may not have as many as you see here. You may have less, you may have more, depends on the rule set. But in this case, this monster has all these string values as fields attached to the record. So I could filter on any of these. In this case, right now, we're just going to work with activity. And for now, any. There are a couple of buttons here that I'll get into. But first, let's just do a search. And these are, and you can see there's a lot because the little scroll bar is super tiny. So basically what it's doing is looking for any NPC that has the activity of any, and then it lists it. And so let's look, see what his activity is, and sure enough, it says any. So you can also toggle some of these filters. Like in this case, it's looking for and. So if you had another activity that was any and day, and if I do this, more likely it's going to come up with nothing. Yep. And that's because what it's looking for is the activity of any and day. It's got to have both of them. If it doesn't have both of them, it won't find it. So that's not super useful for this, but others may have multiple types. And if you want, you can toggle it to an or search. So it'll look for any or day. If we do a search, it'll probably come back with a really long list. So all of these are going to have a activity of any or day. So let's add another filter. And this time what I'd like to do is filter on frequency. We'll add another one, and we'll filter on, let's see, what's a good one? A diet. And we want to do another one on climate. So you'll notice that it's just when I add one, it's adding the first of, and it shows up as activity. And that's because it's just the first one, first record listed in the here. So it just picks that one to start with. I'm going to remove one activity. We want any subterranean, omnivore, frequency of uncommon. Let's see if we find anything. Yep. So all of these values are on each one of these. So if you look, you can see. A diet is omnivore, frequency uncommon, activity any, climate subterranean. So you can vary these fields. So if you want to do, let's say we want to do another diet, and we want this one to be omnivore, It's going to be carnivore. We want to do an or. So what it'll do now is it'll find anything that is a carnivore and an omnivore that is uncommon, that's in climate subterranean and activity any. So now we get all these. And you notice right here I've got 2 lurkers, and the reason for that is I have multiple sources. So what we can do is we can add another filter. Go down here and go to source. Here. And then we can say, all right, let's just do monster manual. Or we can do temple of elemental evil monsters. So what it does is it looks at the source record attached to each one. So right now it'll only look for stuff in there. You can do, you could actually have, an or option here too if you wanted to. You can also do a not. What that means is it can be anything but this. So if I do this, it'll only search for the temple of elemental evil monsters. And if I change it, oops, click the wrong button. I click that again. Go back to and. So it's only going to find that one. Only find the ones listed in the monster manual. So now you can see it lists those and the lurker from the monster manual. So once you've got your filters working the way we want, actually, let's do one more thing. Because I think this is kind of neat. You can do a filter based on hit dice. This is a field for the 2E rule set. It's hit dice like this. We're going to add 2 of them. And the reason being is we want to search for we want to search for anything between, let's say, 1 to 4. So what we'll do is you can either use the drop down and find it, and I apologize for the sorting here. It's just the controls are a little complex in Fantasy Grounds sometimes, so it makes it a little difficult to change this. So right now you have 1 and 4. Right now, if I did this, it would only find something that was 1 and 4, or 1. It would need to match both. So right with the or, we can make it do 1 or 4. And so see there's 1 and 4. Or you can go to this second option here and see how it says match value exactly. What we want to do is we don't want to match value exactly. We don't want to match value anywhere. We want to match this value or greater. That's what we did. And then we want to match this value or lesser. So that means 1 through 4. We search, and now you can see all of these are 1 through 4. Now I don't know why this is showing up. So you'll notice that it has stuff that's not 1 through 4 here. And the reason being is that I inadvertently left this to the wrong search parameter, or. So what it's looking for is anything that's greater than 1, and anything that's less than or equal to 4. We don't want that. We want it to be and. So what that means, it needs to be greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 4. So this will find 1 through 4. So if we do search now you can see that it searched properly. You can also, if you want to, say you add a filter for an activity, and then you see something, well, actually, let's use a climate. Climate has a field. Here we are. Climate has a field, and we'll get rid of this one. That has multiple values. So like here you have, let's see, where's the temperate? So there's temperate, and then there's temperate forest. So if you wanted to search for in temperate forest and find everything that was there within that value, obviously there's none of these values within there for some reason, for various reasons it doesn't have that flag or those values. We could keep narrowing it down till we get what we want. Let's get rid of that and probably get something there. Nope. How about that? Search. Okay, so there's a brownie clicking. It's our hit dice. It's probably, let's get rid of our hit dice. Do a search. Wow, there is only 1 in climate temperate fortress. So wow, let's change this selected value and let's edit it. And you click the pencil, it allows you to edit this thing directly. You hit and then you hit search after that, and now it finds everything that's within temperate. But your brownie is right there. We search on the exact value temperate. So if you want to match the value anywhere, you can do that as well. And what that means is, so if the word temp appears anywhere in the search field or in the value, it'll show. So like this brownie quickling is in it's in temperate forest. So the exact search of temperate won't find him unless, if you're searching for the value exactly, because his value is, let's see if we can change that. Go back to temperate forest. Now we show the quickling. We can go back to temperate, do a search. Well, this quickling is still there. And why is that? Match value anywhere, that's why. So if you do match value exactly, browning disappears, or the quickling disappears. Toggle it again, search, now it'll show up. And that's because temperate is also in the word temperate forest. But once you've got a list of creatures, and let's get a little more values in here. We're going to go back to adding hit dice. And we'll go back to 1 to 4. And let's see what we get here. All right, so we've got a pretty big list of creatures here. And say we want to just make an encounter right off of this list, we can click encounter. And what it did is it built a table based on all of the values from each one of these. So, for example, the first thing here, ink egg, 3-head dice. If you look, his frequency is rare. In that case, it is like a 1% chance for that thing to appear. So what the extension does is it sees how many monsters are listed here, and then creates a percentage value based on all of that, of how much percentage of 1%. What's the 1% value of all these creatures? However many there is. If there's 100, it would be a roll of a 1. In this case, it's probably a little higher than that. I don't know how many monsters are listed here, but it was pretty lucky. We came up with that one. We could do it again, and we've got a blink dog. And let's see what his chance of showing up. His is also rare. Most of these are probably rare, in fact. There's an uncommon. So what it does is it builds a table based on that. So we can generate another encounter. And we've got 5 trolls, and then you can just drag and drop it over here. Add your trolls to your encounter as you normally would, and then put them on your map. But if you want to save this table for later that you've generated, from all your filters, instead of just clicking the encounter, you can click table. And what it'll do is it'll generate a table that you can save and use at your leisure to generate a similar thing that we just did by clicking this. And you can see that the variables like this is 25 to 30. It's a little larger than 1 to 2. And that's based on the frequency that each one of these appears. If you do if you hit the roll, it'll generate 20 mammals, and you can check these values if you want, but there you go. Here you will need to do the generate the experience by clicking this, and I think 5e and some of the other rule sets have that too. For this particular piece, whenever you click it, it will generate an encounter and auto-calculate the experience. But this one you will need to do it on your own because it's a table. That's the way all the tables work. So we click that, and oh, look at that, 95 of those suckers. We don't want that. Let's see. We got 5 centaurs. We can throw them into our counter, and there we go. So that's how you can generate random tables using all the creatures that you can load up into your Fantasy Grounds Unity. You can also, if you just, you get the list here, and you just want to have this dog, you can just click on it, or the Pegasus here, you can just click on it and then drag and drop it into your combat tracker like that. So that's how it works. I'm going to be releasing a version of this in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully everybody will find it useful. If you find any features that are missing with your rule set, or you would like to have added to your rule set, particularly for, at least for the 2e rule set, I can generate this table with these number of encounter types. These values may not be available in your rule set. What'll happen is it'll just have each creature listed individually, just one of each. And the reason I can do that with this is because the number appearing is listed here, and we have a dice roll for that in the 2e rule set. So hopefully you found that useful. Thank you very much.